Hello and welcome back to the Ginger Joe Racing Show, proudly sponsored by betting.co.uk. Quick, lads, please like and subscribe, put the bell on the notification. It helps us out and does well for us on the channel, helps us with this so-called algorithm and new people to the channel. We are joined by a special guest tonight in Liam, but everybody knows him on Twitter as Ante Post Angle. Liam, how are you?
I'm well, thanks very much for having me.
Are you sure now you'll be able for the three of us, the three of us tonight, Liam? Are you sure?
Well, I was
We should
hoping.
put that out there first.
Well, it's a rare visit from Joe, isn't it, on this channel these days? I was hoping
Very
to catch him
rare,
on
very
Scott.
rare. We should change the name of the show. First guest has a petition so already of the new year that we should change the name of the show. So that's fair enough, Liam. We like you already. So we're going to go through, lads, topics from the weekend, fancies for the weekend coming. Joe, as prodigal son, is back on Sunday at Naas. We won't go into it. He was nearly crying over there, the Barry Connon horse there a few minutes ago. And then because of Liam is aka Ante Post Angle, we're gonna have Ante Post tips from him, maybe a new one, an old one. We'll have a new one from Joe, and if he tips William money, we're gonna punch him in the head. And we're gonna go back to our Ante Post tipping series between me and Scotty for our second tip of the season. So we'll crack on. We'll first thing we have down here is the weekend brief of Brave Man's Game. Was it a flop or not? So we'll go to our new guest, put him on the spot straight away. What did you think of the run, Liam?
Uh, I think it's actually par for the course for Brave Man's Game. I think people expect him to do more than what he actually has the ability to do. I think people think that he's a little bit of a bridle merchant, that he basically chucks it in when he's asked for an effort. But I think he's actually doing a lot more during the early parts of the race on the bridle than actually kind of meets the eye. And when he's asked for an effort, he's already given everything that he's got kind of under the bonnet. Um, he's not a betting proposition. Anything anti-post from my perspective. Even if they take him back to the Ryanair, and that was his main target for the season, I couldn't have him personally, because like you saw the other day, the real whacker, something that sets up a pace and that will stay and find when he's asked, and he just can't compete. He jumps so lovely. He's a lovely horse to watch him run in, but he's just not the top quality horse that we thought he was, to be perfectly honest. I don't think he can compete in any grade ones where the quality is of a particular standard. So it was no surprise to me, to be perfectly honest. And yeah, it's just same old with him, really. But yeah, I think people throwing the book at him, suggesting that he chucks it in. I think that's a little bit unfair. I think he's doing a lot more in the early part of his race than people actually give him credit for.
Would you think that Galloping the Champ broke his heart? And do you think he might be a national horse in the future?
Uh, Possibly, yes. I could see Nichols redirecting him, and rather than going to Cheltenham in March, they would probably skip it and do what they did previously with Clandizobo, King George being the main aim, and then going to Aintree for the bowl. No, I don't think that Galloping broke his heart. I think Galloping could have beat him by as many lengths as he liked, to be honest, that day. I think he's the best we've seen since Cato. Um, and it's probably unfair, almost I'm giving him stick that he will not be able to compete in a grade one, given the fact that he's finished second to Galloping Deschamps, who I've just praised so much. So that's obviously contradictory, but yeah, he just flatters to deceive. He always travels into the back end of the race like he's the best horse in the race, and then just doesn't find. Even last year, Gentleman's Game in the Charlie Hall, was it? He absolutely flopped in the Betfair Chase. For me, it wouldn't surprise me if Nichols sends him to the doctor for a cheeky wind up. Obviously, he's not afraid of doing that with any of his horses. But no, I don't think he broke him. I just don't think he was actually that good in the first place. When we look back at that first Galloping Gold Cup, I think the rest of the field kind of proves that as well.
Joe?
I mean, I'd be in a slightly different opinion to most, where they're saying he's a broken horse and things like that. But I mean, he's definitely disappointing for the profile that he's got. But I just think he's a horse that needs to be ridden perfect tactically. And I think that's the issue when you're trying to back him for a race like this at even money, when you've got a front runner like the Real Whacker, you've got some horses that can come off the pace. I just think tactically he's not very versatile. I didn't think there was too much wrong with his running at all. I wouldn't say he flopped or disappointed or anything like that. For me, he's just not tactically versatile. I do, however, like your opinion there, Jamie, or your question to Liam about is he a national horse? Because that's also what came into my mind. Now, we've discussed many times about these sort of horses dropping back for the Ryanair and races like that for shorter of a trip. But perhaps you're right. Perhaps he could be a national horse. But I definitely think he's getting a bit more of a hard time than what he deserves. He's a very talented horse. Didn't run a bad race. He just hasn't got a turn of foot. But we've known this for years. He has to be ridden to a very specific tactical point, and it's just hard to get right. So from a betting perspective, it was hard to back him at even money anyway. That's where I generally stand with Brave Man's Game. But he's a good horse. He's a very good horse.
Scotty?
Yeah, I'm in the opinion of Brave Man's Game. For me, years ago, there was a horse a lot of people will remember called Oscar Whiskey. I think he was one of the worst campaign horses in the history of national hunt racing. And I think Brave Man's Game's in a similar mould, if I'm being honest. I don't think they've campaigned him to the best of what they could have got him out ability wise. I think last year, in particular, when he went to Weatherby, then he went straight to the Betfair Chase. The way the ground was at Haydock, I don't think they gave him enough time to kind of get over that race. And I think that I think it deflected away from how I think he ran a poor race in the Betfair Chase. Royal Pagaille obviously smashed him. Then you had the issue which people seem to not remember where Daryl Jacob rode him in the Betfair Chase and Harry Cobden went to Ascot. I don't know if that was because Johnny Delahay's horses and the way Johnny Delahay's a big owner in the Nichols Yard and the Brave Man's Games owners have kind of got the one big horse, whether ownership kind of had a say as to who rid him that day. But irrelevant to that point, I think Brave Man's Game is one of those horses I've never really backed. I never will. I just don't think he's quite. I've got like a level of horse who's like a top grade two horse, and my classic example of that years ago was Alpha Desobo. He used to run in grade ones and he used to run really respectably, but he was never a grade one horse. And I see Brave Man's Game in that kind of mould. It's a bit harsh that I'm saying that because he won the King George, which is obviously a grade one, and he won the Corto Star, which is a grade one, but he beat a Hoy Senior who going right-handed on a quick track like Kempton over 3 miles, winning a King George against Long Press, who I know you like, Jamie, who's obviously better going left-handed, suits a track like Cheltenham. I think he's had 2 winnable grade ones and he's taken advantage of. And he won the grade one, the Challow, beating Stargate years ago. I just think he's taken advantage of a few weak grade ones. People are coming up with these ideas like Leah mentioned, possibly backing for the Ryanair. Not for me. I wouldn't back him at 100 to 1 for the Ryanair. I don't think he's a Cheltenham horse. Bit harsh because I think the best race he ever ran in his life was when he was second to Galloping in the Gold Cup. I think that's a career best for him. But as far as I'm concerned, it's back to the drawing board. Where I'd go with him next, too high in the handicap to run in something like the Frodon old route towards his retirement, like the Badger Rails, which we've got coming up on the weekend. I think they keep him fresh, lightly raced, and I think his best chance would be in the Gold Cup at Punchestown. But for me, I think we've seen the best of him, and I don't think the best of him is top grade one level anyway. That's just what I think.
Yeah, my opinion on him is just do Dan Skelton on him. Keep dropping him in the handicap, put a 7 pound claim on him, put him in a plate. But we'll move on because he's useless. But anyway, we'll move on.
2025. Coral Cup 2025.
Coral Cup 2025. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, what the Turtles mark is now. That's a good point, Liam. Very good point. We move on to the championship that was at Downroyal the weekend, and good old Envoy, who I think I tipped it last week. Yeah, I did. A good enough winner. Hewitt was second. Here, Shark Hanlon giving out about they put on too much water onto the track before the race. But the main question is how good or indifferent Jerry Calam was after he winning the race last year. I think I said before that I don't think he'd be fully warmed up for it, even though Gordon Elliott always targets Downroyal. I've proven kind of right, but he didn't jump well to me, and Gordon was harping on about his jump is not quick enough and all that. Joe, we'll come to you first. What do you think of the race?
Yeah,
will Envoy win another race for the season, or will Jerry Calam come back at Christmas give Gallopin the Champa race at Leopardstown?
I think Jerry will come back and give him a race over Christmas, but definitely take your hats off to Envoy Len. I think that's 5 out of 6 wins he's had now at Downroyal, and the only time he got beat was when he was chinned on the line their last season, I believe it was. But it's interesting with Jerry because Gordon's been given out about his jumping, saying he jumps his fences too high. That must be something he sees because it doesn't necessarily look like that to me. However, he's obviously been tampering with him, trying to get his jumping to be a little bit slicker, a little bit lower at these fences. I think a combination of that and the fact that he had Sam Ewing in the saddle this time may have been the big difference for him. I'm not saying that Sam Ewing isn't a good jockey, he's fantastic, but he looked like he was having his arms stretched from the very early stages of the race. And to me, it looked like you need Jack Kennedy back in the saddle, a horse that knows him really well. If we obviously go back and look at Jordan Gainford as well, he's never really had the best record on Jerry either. So I think possibly a little bit too much tampering with him, a new jockey in the saddle, and perhaps the ground obviously wasn't ideal for him too. So I will go writing Jerry off too well. But all credit to Envoy Len, he deserved that. Brilliant at Down Royal, top quality horse.
Before I leave you, where does he finish in the Gold Cup?
Third. Simple.
Ian.
If it's bottomless ground, I think he might even still win it. I think people started suggesting that potentially he wasn't as ground versatile as we first thought. I'm not so sure. Maybe he just wanted a little bit more testing. In all fairness to Gordon, he was pretty. It was a good sport. In all fairness, when he was interviewed after, he kind of said, "Look, no real excuses." He missed a couple of pieces of work. He was a couple of weeks behind where he was last year, but he was well below par, wasn't he? Even if he was 80-90% fit, as most would have been in that field, I expected a lot more from him. I don't really know what to make of it. Envoy obviously loves that track, loves that race, loves going fresh. I'm not sure. I'd want to say, obviously the Gold Cup can't have taken it out of Jerry Colombe, given the fact of how well he won at Aintree, obviously a few weeks later. I just think it was just one really to strike a line through, forget, and kind of move on from. I think he'll be a much better horse come the springtime when his proper kind of targets come up.
Would you give Envoy any chance in the King George?
No, absolutely not. I won't give Envoy Allen the chance of winning another race this year.
Scotty?
I think it was. I think there's no excuses for Jerry Colon personally. I'm slightly worried by the run. Being a fan of the horse, I think there's races to be won still this season, but I would be worried. I think the thing in Envoy Allen's possible favour this year was he ran at Gowran Park last year. They always say match fitness counts sometimes, but maybe going in that bit fresher this year, played into his hands a bit more. He loves Down Royal, as we know. Won there as a novice over his hurdle days, a good bumper horse. Won his novice chase there. He's a very efficient jumper. He's a bit like Duvan used to be back in the day. Just used to take his fences very quick and low. Doesn't give them much height. We obviously seen him fall at the festival when Chantry House won the JLT all those years ago. But it's one of them. I think he's such an underrated horse, Envoy Allen, for a horse that's won it 3 times at the festival. Should have been a 4th time. I think he kind of gets. I still think he's a bit of a forgotten horse in terms of top class. I'd rate him as one of the top 10 horses in National Hunt for the past 10 to 15 years. I think he's that good, Envoy Allen. I wouldn't have had him as big as he was in the market against Jerry Colombe. I think Jerry's just like a very popular kind of. He's a punter's horse, Jerry Colombe, for me. Arguably, he could be unbeaten. The only time he was well and truly beaten was in the Gold Cup last year by Gallopin, but he should have won the RSA a few years ago when he was done by the real whacker. That race was very winnable the other day for him, but I'm concerned. I think it's. I think there's something there where it says maybe he's just gone a step backwards in the summer, and there's absolutely no chance he's going to beat Gallopin at Leopardstown. I think that's the obvious race at Christmas next for him. And I don't think he's got a hope in hell of winning the Gold Cup, whatever the ground is. I'd put the likes of Long Press on heavy ground to finish ahead of him in that race if they turned up. I think he's fighting for 4th or 5th place in the Gold Cup. And I'm the other way around to Liam. I think Envoy's got maybe 1 or 2 races in him still to win this season, whereas I think Jerry Colombe's going to struggle.
Do you think Jerry Colombe's sort of like Brave Man's Game then in that sense, where he doesn't necessarily have fully effective gears to see off a race at the end? Again,
I
perhaps
think
the
out of the
fact.
two, sorry, if I was going
Hmm.
to have the gun to my head and someone gave me my own money to back either one of those for the Grand National, Jerry Colombe is an absolute Grand National horse. He is tailor made for that race. Whereas Brave Man's Game is a non-stayer in my opinion. He would no way get the trip in the Grand National. I think Jerry Colombe this year, if I was Gordon Elliott, that would be my long-term aim would be the Grand National with him this year.
Interesting.
We'll move on. Gordon Elliott put out a trio of very promising horses the weekend in Romeo Coolio, Firefox, and found a 50. Scotty? 10 to 1. We'll start Romeo Coolio. 10 to 1 for Supreme. Will you impress? Will he win the Royal Bond against Salvatore Mundi? And would he be on your radar for Supreme?
100%. Absolutely so excited by him. Um, from the bumpers last year, I was not sold on him at all. But when he ran in that champion bumper, I was like, oh my God. Backing Jasmine DeVoe on the day, I was praying he was going to get the better of him. And I just gained massive respect for Romeo Coolio after that race. I went straight in and backed him. I think I'm on at about 22s on the exchanges for the Supreme. He did what he had to. He probably didn't beat a lot, but I think sometimes I get more impressed when they beat a load of rubbish in the field and they do it well. A good horse goes on any ground, and a good horse, especially in the maiden hurdle, if they make all and are good enough and they do it in the style that he did, ran from the front, made the running, I'm just super impressed. And going into the Royal Bond, I know it's down to a grade two, but I think Salvador Mundi, he's very much you can't say a horse for 4 year olds, which he is still going into his 5 year old year. He was well beaten in the Triumph, and I know he won that Mickey Mouse race in the summer by about 100 million lengths. But horses have done that in previous seasons as novice hurdlers. I remember too, like Monkfish did it. I know he won the Albert Bartlett, but then Embassy Gardens did the same, and he came nowhere in the Albert Bartlett. I think Salvador Mundi will be found out in the Royal Bond. I think it will be a good race this year, and I fully expect Romeo Coolio to turn him over. Um, I I think there's going to be horses kind of like the year in Pere Pass won the Moscow Flyer. We didn't really hear or know about him until that race, until the entry came out in January. I think you'll start seeing the novices kind of filter into the January stage, whatever Willie has. Maybe Nicky Henderson will unleash something in the UK side of things. But I think Romeo Coolio is the best this side of Christmas we'll see, and I think he's going to take all the beating in the Royal Bond. And I'm convinced he's going to be a very short price favourite for the Supreme. I think he's very good.
So,
Yeah, I mean, this got my juices flowing, James. I've got to be honest with you. I mean, woo! We've seen a good horse here. Like the way he moves, the way he travels, the way he jumps, he just finds it all so easy. I think he could go on a faster surface. I think he could go on a slower surface. And I was under the impression that he'd be a horse for the Gallaghers, but now I've seen him run it down Royal. That's a pure two miler, that is. And I know I'm a fanboy and any chance to bring him up, but he did remind me of Marine Nationale. He's slick, he's got a nice turn of foot, but he's rapid. He does everything he does everything so easily, and he just moved through the ground like there was no worries at all. He just has all the traits that I'd like to see in a Supreme horse. So for me, he's going to have a massive chance now. Like Scotty said, he's going to go to the Royal Bond against Salvatore Mundi, William Money. So we'll find out how good he is then. But for now, I mean, I don't care about the opposition beat. That is a horse that you've got to get excited about.
yeah.
Not bad. Was it 19 minutes and so many seconds before Marine Nationale was pro by?
There'll be a few more yet. There'll be a few more yet.
Yeah, I was impressed with his jumping, the way he travelled. Obviously, he hasn't beaten an awful lot. He's 13-2 on. If you want to be really picky, when he was kind of asked to go and win the race and was asked for a little bit more of an effort, he jumped a little bit to his right over the last three hurdles, and it kind of got progressively worse for each one. Obviously, look, it's his first time over the obstacles, so I'm sure that there'll be a load of improvement to come from that perspective. I just can't pinpoint in terms of trip or distance, and obviously Willie Mullins's kind of MO would be the fact that his speed horses, people suggest, end up in the 2.5 miler, and the stayers end up in the Supreme. I just can't quite pinpoint as to whether he is kind of a stayer or whether he is all speed. So I don't really know where he'll end up. I probably couldn't back him at the moment, Ante Post. Unless you're building a book, then you probably want to have him on side for whichever race you felt he's most likely to go for. But yeah, you couldn't help but be impressed. He looked very good, and obviously Gordon was really sweet on him last year, wasn't he? Prior to him even hitting a racetrack for the bumper. So no, yeah, promising start.
I was really impressed with him, and sorry, Jay, just before we go on, like I was really impressed with the way he moved. And to me, it's almost slightly a misconception when people say you need a stayer to win the Supreme and you need a stayer to win the Gallaghers. To me, it's just you need a horse that can maintain their top speed coming up the Cheltenham Hill. I don't think it necessarily means you need a horse that stays 2.5 miles and 3 miles. You've still got to have a lot of speed to get it done. Even when you look back at the likes of Alpha Off, etc., they're just horses that can maintain a really high cruising speed for a long time. So it may be a slight misconception in my mind that you need to be a pure stayer as such to win the Supreme.
Do you
Um,
think, Joe, even those that have won it, who have stayed over 2 miles over fences, have actually needed a trip like in time? Like Altior probably should have
yeah,
been stepped. Shishkin was actually should have been
sure.
stepped to victory.
No, yeah,
Uh,
totally agree with you there because at the same time, again, this is also sort of a slight contradiction. For my Arkle horses, I do like those that come back in trip. For instance, I like Imperi Pass for this year. So there is a slight, I suppose, contradiction there. But just for me, from what I see from my eye, I just feel like the staying types are those that need to be able to just maintain that speed up the hill rather than being able to stay a longer trip, perhaps. So, but again, I'm contradicting myself, I know, but that's
Another
my
good
idea of it.
example of what you said there was Duke de Geneva. He ran in the
Yeah,
Ballymore the
exactly.
year Sangro won it, and he came back and won the Arkle the next year, albeit the ground was treacherous that day. I very much agree with what you said. I think that's a good point.
Jamie, what
I
about you
suppose it's
then?
always.
Go on, Liam.
Sorry, I was going to say. I suppose it's always the same argument that like Ruby Walsh makes. He consistently talks about pace as opposed to
Sure,
speed. It's
sure.
about maintaining a particular pace as opposed to turn of foot and things like that. So,
That's it.
um, yeah,
Because
yeah.
one mistake in the Supreme and your momentum's gone. It's a real momentum race. You need a good jumper as well, you know. So it is again possibly that pace angle, but who knows? That's what we're obviously to talk about, and we'll find out. But Jane, before you go on to the next race, I want to hear your thoughts here. Come on, you got to give us yours as well.
Me, well, I backed
Yes.
him already 20 to 1, like for the Supreme, and I'm happy. I backed him last year in the bumper. My father will tell you we were sweeting him in the DRF at the stand. We told you this with Gordon Elliott, you know Gordon Elliott, like you could see the twinkle in his eye about this horse. He thinks this is the next coming, and he'll be some chaser. But exactly what you're saying, Joe, it's his movement. Yeah, he looks like he can do, and he looks like he could be quick, even better off a faster pace. Now he's
Totally.
jumping. I agree with Liam there. It does need brushing up. He needs to jump a bit quicker. Now I'm with Liam here. I thought Jalan Judery would be their supreme horse, and I thought Romeo Coolio would be their Gallagher's horse. And that's the way if I was having a bet as a punter and have looking from previous experience, that I would go with Jalan Supreme and Romeo Coolio Gallagher's, but it looks like they're going to go the other way.
Mm. Mhm.
I'd hold fire on them yet, but we'll see how when Jalan Judery comes as well. I think that bumper is really good, to be honest, Joe. There's been a few winners of it already, like 16th in the Quebec was one,
Yeah, yeah,
and Paul
true.
Nichols weren't winning first time out, and he won.
You
So
had
Royal
Royal
Infantry
Infantry.
won
Yeah, yeah.
today. There's good horses in it. I think when you kind of looked at it at the start, you think, oh, that's only all right bumper, but no, I think it's a really good one. It's good to see it. Good to see it because people crib the bumper and say, oh, bumper, bumper. No, no. I
Yeah.
like to see a good bumper and move on. We'll stick with you, Joe. Firefox, top price 6 to 1 for an Arca. Would you be having that?
I wouldn't be backing him, that's for sure. But I do like the way, again, another nice mover. He even over hurdles was just very straightforward. It doesn't take him a lot of effort to get from one side to the other. Really economical, nice, decent head carriage on it. So it's no surprise to see him go around and jump these fences well. But he does look like a nearly horse to me. I've been cribbed for saying that a few times by people on Twitter, and that's fair enough. He may end up coming on to be the best of the lot, but I would be disappointed if he was the Arkle winner. I'd be surprised if there weren't a few more perhaps speedier sorts than him coming up the hill. Would be for me at the price anyway, but he's a very, very nice horse and a very likable one too.
Got it.
Yeah, I'm with Joe. I think he's an early horse for me. He's obviously a classy horse. I think he is probably just about a grade one horse. Whether he's going to improve for fences more so than he did in his novice hurdle campaign, I guess we'll find out later in the season. But I said to you, I think straight after the race, I wasn't massively impressed. And then when I watched it back in the evening, I had more time. He was very efficient over his fences. It was a good start. I think Mighty Potter won that race a few years ago for Gordon. Oh, I don't know if it was the race. It was on the card anyway. And Mighty Potter, I think, was very electric over his fences. When it comes to an Arkle, I think Firefox may get found out, and I think there's going to be three or four probably ahead of him come the finish. Um, there's not a lot else I can say really, apart from I'd have to see him again to really make my mind up. But I'd have him almost a double figure price still for the Arkle. I think sixes, if you're taking sixes about that one performance beating Mossy Fen Park, who would have no place in any grade one, even just to take his run in a grade one. I think he's probably like a handicapper down the line for something, whatever race, I don't know. But yeah, I'd have to see Firefox again. I'm not totally sold on him, if I'm being honest.
Liam?
Completely agree with the lads. To be honest, I would definitely not be backing him at that price. Yeah, he was very good in terms of his jumping. It was sound. He got in tight to a couple towards the back end of the race. He fiddled his way over. He was pretty clever when he got to them, but yeah, he's no betting proposition in my opinion. I think he's a little bit like Fakir Duderi, or almost like a Brave Man's Game. We said he's like a grade 1.5 horse. He's in between the two. He's not an upper winner for me.
My opinion of the race, really, obviously, with an Arkle coming up, all depends on one horse who I think is the best horse in training. To be honest, with Bar Constitution Hill. If he goes there, Ballyburn, there's no one going to beat him. But if you look at it, there's actually 6 to 1 is rotten value. But if you put him up against an In the Pocket and an Imperial Pass, he's won over, like, exactly what you're saying about the 2 miles and 2 miles. That was 2 miles, 3.5. And he's no way is he going for a Browns. This is where the argument with the Turners comes back in. He's probably a Turner's horse, really, more time. But if it was Firefox In the Pocket and Imperial passing an Arkle, I backed Firefox all day against the two of them because he was third in the Supreme. Supreme horses make Arkle horses. And I thought he jumped very, very well. And he kept up, and he's played by Mossy Finn Park, which obviously what Scotty's saying there is a handicapper and would probably be in a novice handicap chase for the future. I was really impressed with him. I was. Now, exactly, it's coming back to like a Brave Man's Game kind of argument. Does he have a turn of foot? And I haven't seen it yet. But you have to remember, I know Ballyburn wasn't fully wound up. He still is beating at Ballyburn. So 6 to 1, rotten value, but I wouldn't give up on an Arkle. No, I wouldn't. It all depends, obviously, on one horse.
How much have you got on at bigger prices, Jamie?
I backed him at 25. I backed him after the Supreme, yeah. Yeah, I just couldn't resist.
I know, perfect. Yeah. 25s, yeah.
I was impressed. I was impressed. Compared to In the Pocket of Wexford and compared to Imperial Pass, who hasn't jumped offensive public, well, that's the problem is Ballyburn's the problem, and we'll see where he goes. That's another thing. That's an argument for another day.
You're missing another problem, and that's where Slade Steele starts. He's the one that could beat them all this year.
He's going to stay 2 miles now, isn't he? He can't go
to.
from 2 to 3, can he?
Yeah. So, well, there's no arguments that Rachel will be on State Steel because Mark wants to be on In the Pocket. So,
of course, if he gets it.
The last one of Gordon Elliott, he's top price now, 16 to 1 for Ryanair. Liam, as your Ante Post Angle, we'll go to you first. Would he be a betting proposition for you? Were you impressed? Give him a stone to Pinkerton, and would you have any betting him of your money at 16 to 1 for Ryanair?
No, I wouldn't. I don't think. Again, I think he's the theme of the evening. I don't think he's quite a grade 1 horse. I know a lot of people had fancy prices last year, thinking that he'd improve. Not too similar to Firefox, I suppose. Same colours and everything. No, I couldn't be backing him in open company to win a grade 1. A good horse, but again, just falls short of that top quality. I think there'll be a lot more that's better than him, and I don't think he'd actually be able to compete at the top echelons of the game, to be honest. But yeah, nice win, as you say, conceding that weight to Pinkerton, stayed on well, got the job done. But no, it's just a nearly horse again for me.
Rafi?
I'm very, very strong on this horse, Jamie. I'm really, really keen. I actually backed him for the Ryanair before he ran in this race the other day. I got 28 to 1 on the exchanges. He's now into, I'm looking here, he's 15s. Again, he's now rated 162 over fences. Protectorat, who won the race to Ryanair last year, 167. I think this year they go like that. Protectorat obviously will have a good chance probably come March. I know you like him. Looking at the market here for the Ryanair, Gaelic Warrior, he's favourite. Could run here, probably will go the champion chase. We don't know. It's Willie Bingo. Then you got the likes of El Fabiolo, Ilite Thompson, and you fall on Found the 50, who's a 16 on the exchange. He's not going to go off that price on the day, and this will be the race he will go, and he will not go the champion chase. He will not go to Gold Cup. This is definitely going to be the race he runs in. I got a feeling Gordon's going to campaign him very strong this year. I don't think he's going to run in something like the Savills at Christmas. The problem is the 2.5 mile races in Ireland, just like the UK, are very limited in what you can run in. I wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe run one more time before Christmas and then they keep him for the Ryanair. I loved everything he did on the weekend. He was entitled to win. Beating Pinkerton, okay, Pinkerton's a handicapper, but winning the Galway Plate, you still have to be a good horse to win that. Galway Plate winners, the likes of Balcado Flow, Road to Riches, they all come out and won or placed at the festival. Carlingford Lock was a good horse. He won a Galway Plate. All the form has been really strong the past few years coming from that race. And I think Found the 50 beating Pinkerton. And Pinkerton was backed as well. He was backed into 5-4 and Found the 50 drifted on the day. And that shows how much they must think of Pinkerton. And Found the 50 put him away with ease. Liam's Liam's kind of said what we've said. He may not be a top grade one horse. I don't think he'll have to be to win a Ryanair this year, but I'm convinced he's a very solid option, and I'm definitely going to keep him on side. I'm very interested.
Joe?
Yeah, I like him. I think he's getting a bit of a disservice there. Regarding saying he only just beat Pinkerton. Like you said, he won the Galway Plate, but he also had to give Pinkerton us over a stone in weight. That's massive. That's not a straightforward task to do. And Gord obviously thinks enough because he is being targeted actually next at the John Durkan though. So he obviously thinks plenty of him too. And I like horses that just go round about their business. He's not exactly flashy. But look, he gave Pinkerton a stone on his first start of the season to a race fit Pinkerton, and he beat him fairly easy enough. When he was asked to quicken and put the race to bed, he did get it done. So, yeah, I quite liked him. I'm not necessarily saying he's going to go and win at Cheltenham, but I do think he's a grade one animal. Whether he could beat some of the top horses is yet to be seen, but he's fully deserved for me in a place in a grade one anyway. He certainly adds to the spice of it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. It was a good performance. I will hold fire back on him on a refinery yet, till I see him if he does run in the John Darkin, which looks like it's going to be
Hmm.
one of the biggest hottest John Darkins if they all turn up. So yeah, we move on. I suppose most impressed horse we thought obviously here on the list on Saturday because he was top weight in a handicap at Ascot was Chianti Classico. Scotty, we'll start with you first. Where do you think he'll go? Is he up to grade one standard now? His rating's up to what, 156? But did he only get £4 from the British handicapper? I thought he deserved more than that. It was a cracking performance the weekend. Where do you see him ended up? Grand National, Gold Cups and all that. Is he a horse for the Cotswold Chase or something like that at Cheltenham down the line?
Yeah, I sat down. I was at the Bowls Club on Saturday, and I watched the race during the game. I was kind of like distracted because I wanted to really see how he got on, and yeah, I was mighty impressed. I don't think there's any better sight in racing when a horse comes to that last. The front runner, a bit like Surname-esque years ago, where they ping the last at Ascot and they absolutely wing it. It's just such a nice thing to watch. And Chianti Classico is very much a Grand National type, isn't he? But even Kim Bailey said the other day, is he really keen to run him off like a huge weight in that kind of race? It may count against him now. I think he's progressing pretty quickly. I don't know where he'll go, to be honest, Jay. If he was me, I'm a campaigner in my head. I look where all these horses go, where I'd run them next. I think the Cotswolds are a good option, but obviously that's not till late January, so you're going to have to get one more run into him. I'd maybe just be tempted to send him to something like the Peterborough Chase, maybe at Huntington. I know he'll be like a real top weight in that. Maybe give him a spin there in another handicap. If he comes third or fourth, then it'll chuck a few pounds off him for the national, and they'll see what they want to do next. But you're wasting your time in the King George, that kind of thing. The only other option could be the Grade Two Ascot on the, I think it's the Amelin Chase, isn't it? The race that Pictorial normally runs in. Possibly you'll see him there, but for me, I think he's a bit going to be a bit outclassed in a Gold Cup.
What
Uh,
about a bet? What about like a Betfair Chase, Scotty?
No, I think going left-handed is obviously no problem for him, and I think the ground will be okay. But I just don't like horses who run on that weekend, the Charlie Hall Ascot weekend, and then going to the King,
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Chase. I think it comes too close. So yeah, like I said, I'll probably look for that race at Ascot next for him. At least I think it's a week or a couple of weeks after. Give him a bit more time to recover. It's obviously his home course. He likes it there. That's where I'd run him next, and then just keep my cards close to my chest after that.
Yeah.
I think everyone's kind of looking towards the Ultima and those that win it and are finishing the front in the frame to go on and then be able to compete in kind of open company. I think last year's or this year's even Ultima renewal actually wasn't all that good comparative anyway to previous years when you had the likes of Fast or Slow, who's evidently a grade one horse, Corrock Rambler, who then obviously did the double at Cheltenham and then national winner. There was only about 7 finishes or something, wasn't there? Obviously, I know it was heavy ground. So I'm not suggesting he's overrated at all. I think he may struggle when stepping up into graded company. So I don't really know what you do with him. But you're going to have a crack at it, aren't you? He did really well to win the other day, obviously carrying the weight that he did. and went away from all of them. Jumped lovely round Ascot. Obviously, he's a bit of a sharp track jumping test. I think that's right up his street. I don't really know where you throw him in next. I definitely would not get a job as a race planner. That's 100% certain. But yeah, lovely horse. I don't really know where he goes from here. I just think maybe you stuck it a little bit in kind of no man's land.
Would anyone suggest that would you put him in a Hennessy F156, the Car Gold Cup? I think you tailor made for it.
Big old ask though, isn't it, to win that? I mean, it's been done, hasn't it, before we've seen it, but
You
don't
jump and see
know.
that,
I
put him out
think
in front of him in a Hennessy and let him go.
I mean,
I think
this is
you
the
have to be a Gold Cup horse to kind of do that.
Yeah, he would have to be Gold Cup standard. If to win a 156, you have to be Gold Cup standard to win a Hennessy. Well, Carl Gold Cup, excuse me.
But he just keeps. We don't actually know how good he is yet, though, because he does keep finding for pressure. And to do,
True.
I got to be honest, I didn't fancy him at all at the weekend to do what he did from front running tactics, first run of the season. I couldn't have had my money on him at all. So, you've got to be mad impressed by what he's done, and he might just be one of these horses that keeps finding. So, possibly, I guess, possibly. I wouldn't know though. I wouldn't know where to campaign him.
We sorry there we missed two now that we've never told Liam about. So we'll go on to Brighter Days Ahead. I see Gordon Elliott afterwards. It's kind of been lukewarm now all of a sudden that this horse is a champion hurdle mare, which is not a hope in hell because she can't jump. She to me at the moment is a cast iron certainty for the mare's hurdle with no lassie mouth. Liam, I begin back at you on the spot for an Ante Post Angle. Is she now probably not a betting proposition for the mare's hurdle, but were you impressed? Is she a mare's hurdle horse or a champion hurdle?
Yes, impressed, given the fact that she'll definitely improve for the run. Is she a champion hurdle horse? Absolutely not. Will she end up in the mares? Yes, but it will be a two-horse race because I think Lossiemouth will end up there as well. So Lossiemouth will be sent in against either State Man and, in my opinion, both in hope and what I actually think will happen, Ballyburn will also stay over hurdles. One of those will beat her.
I
Interesting.
know I liked you, Liam. I know I liked
One of those will turn her over, so whether that's the DRF or at Christmas. And then Willie can come out and say, well, if Stateman beats her, there's no way that she beats Constitution Hill. So we're going to redirect her, and it will be built as a clash of these two mares against each other. Whereas what we really should have is both of them turning up in the champion hurdle, and or Brighter Days Ahead, even in the stayers, and then get them getting the allowance, and that would add a lot more to those races. So no, I wouldn't back her for the champion hurdle. Definitely not. I and I wouldn't back her for the mares, to be honest. So I think Lossiemouth will turn up there, and if she does, she's unbelievable around that track. 3 from 3, storms up that hill, and yeah, the pair of them versus each other in the mares, I'd be all over Lossiemouth. But no, impressive. She'll come on for the run, as I say. It's a shame that they didn't go chasing with her. They obviously think a lot of her. Gordon couldn't stop smiling in his interview after that I saw after she won. But yeah, it's just a shame, really. But that's not obviously their fault. It's the schedule and whatever else.
Joe.
Yeah, look, I echo everything Liam said there, to be honest. Like Lossiemouth's ending up in the mares. I don't care what anyone says. I think come March, she is in that mares lineup going against Brighter Days Ahead. And I think Lossie absolutely eats her for breakfast if Brighter Days Ahead goes and jumps like that. These big leggy sort of horses, they just don't tend to jump hurdles very well. Even if you look at perhaps like Lucia for Henderson, she's another leggy mare, doesn't jump well enough. Impervious, she was good over fences. She couldn't jump a hurdle for Toffee. And again, like we know, you can't get away with these sort of mistakes at Cheltenham, especially if you're going to be running up against horses like Lossiemouth. It would be nice to see both of them in the champion hurdle. Great, add to the spice of the race. We do need that sort of thing. But in the reality of things, she ends up in the mares and gets beat by Lossie quite convincingly, in my opinion. I'd be surprised if Brighter Days Ahead gets within 5 lengths of Lossiemouth for me. And again, I don't think she's good enough for a champion hurdle. So that's sort of where I think Brighter Days Ahead is at. It's no doubt she's got a big engine, but she's got to jump better. She has to. Not surprising that they're staying hurdling with her for me at all.
Scotty.
Yeah, hat trick for me. I no chance in the champion hurdle whatsoever. They were all touting when Apple's J tried to do it the year that Espoir Delaine ran it. She almost got lapped in a champion hurdle. I don't think Brighter Days Ahead's good enough jumper. They say if they go quicker in a champion hurdle, it will help her, but her jumping's not good enough in my opinion. It was a good performance. I mean, Daddy Longlegs pulled his chance away. You could see he wasn't going to get home in that race. King of Kingsfield, I think he's a bit of a no man's land horse. He got pretty close to her, and it was a good performance from King of Kingsfield. But Bright Days Ahead's class got her through the race, and I'd love to see her step up to 3 miles in the Christmas hurdle at Leopardstown, the race that Irish Point won last year. I think she'd make a lovely staying hurdler. But yeah, it's a full house. I think if Lossiemouth doesn't turn up in the Morgiana, there's no way Willie's going to send her and State Man or Bailey Byrne all together in that first race. State Man will turn up there. I wouldn't be surprised to see Lossiemouth turn up at Ascot in that race for Heen and Andy Powell won a few years back, and then gets put away, comes back to Cheltenham for the International. Brighter Days Ahead will go to the Mayor's Hurdle and she'll get found out. I'd even back on heavy ground Golden Ace to maintain the form from Cheltenham. I know Brighter Days Ahead was impressive at Aintree, but I think it's all very ground dependent. But if Lossiemouth turns up in the Mares, it doesn't matter. Nothing's going to beat her. There's not a horse in training that could beat Lossiemouth at Cheltenham over 2.5 miles. Maybe Ballyburn. Um, so yeah, Brighter Days Ahead's obviously got my respect, but I'd be looking at the Christmas hurdle and then going to the Mayor's Hurdle probably straight after. But I don't think she's a Cheltenham winner this year. Not for me.
And lastly, we have a Twitter explosion today about a ride of a horse in Chepstow, a horse that Harry Skelton says is one of the best it's ever trained as a mare. A lot of people saying public schooling in a race course today. Joe, we're going to you first. What did you take of it? Is it been harsh? Is it been
Yeah,
unfair?
I think
What do you think of it?
I do think it's a little bit harsh. Like, I mean, I think people are expecting a little bit more from Letting Rain than what's actually gonna come from this mare myself. I mean, I also think she needs an absolute slog to be at her best. Now, it's probably fair to say Harry Skelton didn't necessarily go for the whip, but he was just trying to keep her up to her work. And if she was good enough, she'd have found a slight turn of foot to go win the race anyway. I'm very cautious about crabbing jockeys because look, we don't ride horses, but I mean, we still are fully entitled to an opinion. But I don't know, I'm not too sure. I'm a bit on the fence for this one. I would like to have seen Harry get the whip out, give her a clip, and see what she could have done from there. But I mean, are we looking at a county hurdle horse? I suppose that comes into the equation then a little bit. No real strong view at the moment. I try not to get too involved, but I do see the point if you were backing her, why you'd be unhappy at the same time.
Scotty? Come on.
Um,
Let it
yeah.
out, Scotty. Go on, let it
No,
out.
well, I said what Joe said. County hurdle. Get the runs in. Put the brakes on. County hurdle. The drift was interesting though, wasn't it? She should have been favourite from her bumper form. All this talk that she likes a bit of cut in the ground. Maybe she does, but I think she won on good ground at Ascot, so I'm not buying into it totally. I think I'd like to see her run again at the Newbury meeting, the Hennessy meeting. I think there's a listed mare's hurdle there, and I think she'll possibly run there next. I know Skelton likes that meeting for his mares. Yeah, I'm not going to talk too much into what happened today. Let's move on.
Liam?
I've been out travelling for almost all of the day, so I've only just actually looked at the result and realised that she lost. I didn't realise that this was the case. She opened up odds on last night, I thought,
Yeah, she was. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Eight
and
to
she went off at
15, I
11.
think. I think she was as short as 8 to 15 in places.
Yeah, I've just seen the price she went off at. Um, Bizarre, and also when you consider the fact that Scott's obviously mentioned about getting the runs into her, and then for a handicap, will she get out 4 more occasions and still be fresh enough to run for a sixth time later this season? Obviously, needing the 5 runs now for the
Yeah,
handicap at
good
Cheltenham.
point.
Obviously possible. Um, yeah, the price you went off at is not reassuring. And the thing is, I think he gets a little bit of unfair stick, in all fairness, Dan. When we watch the green and gold go round and all sorts going on with other people connected with the sport, and then obviously got a lot of stick for Langerdan and whatever else. I can't really comment. I haven't seen the race, as I say, but yeah, I'll be surprised if they're trying to get basically run a 6 occasions over hurdles this season and plot her for something. But yeah, we'll see. I suppose I'll have to watch it back.
Go on then, James. Just the lowdown.
To me, it didn't look great at all. No, no, it didn't. I'll say no more. It just didn't look great to me. Very, very, I won't say. Yeah, I will hold fire on my opinion on her though till she runs again. Yeah, I think you'd see a much better horse next time.
You'd like to think so, wouldn't
That's
you?
to
You'd
give
like
me.
to.
I wouldn't give up on her. I wouldn't give up on her. No.
Mm.
Moving on, the controversy. We'll move on to our weekend preview. We selected a few races for the weekend. We'll just go through them Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, one or two races every day. And we see if we have a selection. If anybody else at the end of the selection, any other race for the weekend, we let them have the floor. I don't personally myself. So we'll start tomorrow. There's a Mayor's Chase at 2:05 at Clonmel. It's the T8 Morris Memorial EBF listed Mayor's Chase. And the favourite here is returning, officially rated 151. How? In Allegory Devassi at 5-6. She could be anything at 3-1. Pink in a Park 6-1. A law of their own 50-2 bar. We'll start with you, Scotty. Any fancy here for the 2:05 at Clonmel tomorrow? Oh, mute,
You've muted yourself.
mute, mute.
Sorry, Coventry game is on. I muted myself.
Who?
It's a tricky race as in I wouldn't be wanting to back Oligori Devasi and I wouldn't want to be laying her. She's a bit of a, she's a nutcase. If she turns up in good form, this is definitely the way round for her, I think, isn't it? She's better going right-handed. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
she. Um, yeah, she's the most likely winner. Just depends. She's like a 3 or a 4 out of 10, isn't she? Where she turns up and misses 6 or 7 races where she just can't be asked. But I'd probably take a chance on she could be anything. We've spoke about her a previous show ago. She's got the form of Pink in the Park covered. Took care of her at Listowel earlier in the season. She followed up by beating Gaelic Arkin and Space Tourist at the track. I think it was just last week. So I think at 100 to 30, I think I'd rather be just having a small tenner win on her than having a bigger bet on Allegory Devasi. And I don't think anything else in the race is quite up to the standard of these two. And I think she could be anything is the improving horse. And she'd be just a small win bet for me. And I wouldn't be disappointed if she came second or third. That's probably as good as she is. But I think she's capable of serving up to Allegory Devasi on the day. I'd give it a go.
Yep.
If you were lumping on Allegory Devassi, you'd have your heart in your mouth on a few occasions when she was jumping fences. Sometimes she gives them zero respect and absolutely clouts a few of them. I'm actually going to go with the opposite train of thought to Scott. The fact that Pink in the Park was beat by She Could Be Anything, but she was getting £7 that day. Now that's quite literally flipped, and now Pink in the Park is getting that £7 back. She won well on a beginner's chase. Back in fourth was Lismalt Park, was it? Yes, that's it. Sorry, Lismalt Lad, who then obviously went on to win really gamely, in all fairness, from the front at the October meeting at Cheltenham. So obviously that's given the form a little bit of a boost. Appreciate it was a beginner's chase. Obviously, most were probably just out for a little bit of experience and whatnot. But obviously, you'd rather side with the one that Paul's going to pick, given the fact that he's given first choice. But it wouldn't be the first time that Danny Mullins ends up being on second choice and ends up coming home in front. So yeah, Allegory Devassi, I just couldn't back her at that price. I just couldn't trust her. I remember having my heart in my mouth when I had a few quid in her last year, first time out, and she jumped a few very sketchily. So yeah, if you force me into a bet, it'd be Pink in the Park, but I'll probably just watch it and then regret it if she comes home in front.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of share Liam's opinion actually. Again, there's pretty much like a stone swing between the two mares. She Could Be Anything and Pink in the Park. And I don't actually think Allegory Devassi is going to run here on good ground. I don't think she's ever even run on anything softer than good to soft. And even then, she struggled to believe. So I think it's going to be between She Could Be Anything and Pink in the Park. She Could Be Anything is improving, but like Liam said, that's like a stone swing. That's a real hard, feat to turn around. That's a lot of improvement required, which could be there. And I think we could actually end up seeing She Could Be Anything turn up at Cheltenham in the Mayor's Chase come March. I don't think she's going to be good enough. But yeah, I'm exactly with Liam here. I think Pink in the Park takes some stopping from the weight reverse because I don't think Allegory Vassi is going to run on her first start of the season on good ground myself.
Fair enough. Allegory Devassi just win, but I went back for a 5-6. The 240 is the Grade 2 Clonmel Chase, and the favourite here is Factor Duderi at 7-4, Saint Sam at 9-4, Solness at 7-2. A favourite of Scotty's, Bildor, which I'd be shocked if he doesn't tip him, at 5-1, Braun at 20-1, and Influential Lady at 125-1. Scotty, the floor is yours. Go ahead, and we'll leave you to have it.
Yeah, you stole my thunder. You knew I was going to say Fildor, didn't you? But no, I'm the biggest Fildor fan. I'm convinced he's got a big race in him. I don't fancy him tomorrow though. Funny enough, Saint Sam's going to be tough to beat. I think he wins the egg and spoon races. I think he's a very well placed horse, Saint Sam. But going back to bronze run third in the Browns last year. I think that's pretty solid form. Fakadu Deriz is going to be the one to beat. I'm trying to get away from him, but I think tomorrow he's going to be prime for this. We know he's pushing on 10. Feels like he's about a 15-year-old. He's been around that long, hasn't he? But no, I think it could be pretty straightforward tomorrow. I think they'll Saint Sam will probably bowl out in front. Fakir will track him, and I think maybe jump in the last. You'll see the class of the race come to the fore. And I think Fakir is not a bad price at 7-4. I'm not massively keen on taking shortish prices in graded races nowadays. But I think Fakir is backable at 7-4, and I'm convinced he's going to win tomorrow. Actually, the more I look at it, I think he's the one to beat.
Joe?
Me and Scotty completely disagree here. I think Fak is an absolute dog now. I just think he's a horse gone at the game. He just doesn't seem interested in racing anymore. He never puts his best foot forward. We've seen what he's like on a good day. He certainly doesn't look like the same horse to me anymore. Saint Sam, he's possibly a rejuvenated character this year. I think he won it in France last time out over at Auteuil. And he's a horse that just seems to be around forever. But I will say, I've actually been quite impressed by his attitude and things this year. So I think he's a much better horse now than what we give him credit for. And Phil Daw, I think he's the forgotten horse. I think we're going to see a bigger run from him, especially with the Gordo yard running well at the moment. Not necessarily sure I'm going to have a bet here at the moment, but I would quite happily have a St. Sam Field or reverse forecast here. I think Fakir is not going to show up. Solness to me looks like a horse that could win the Kerry National down your neck of the woods perhaps next year, James. So, yeah, St. Sam Field or 1 and 2. Let's go for it.
Yeah.
Fakir's got a decent record first time out over the last few years. I think he's won on reappearance on a couple of occasions, beating decent horses as well. And then a second to Galloping the Champ, which is obviously no mean feat. But I also think that he's over the hill. He's kind of done.
Go on.
Yeah, so I couldn't have him at 7-4. I'll just watch this race. I think I've got a big soft spot for Bron. I thought he ran a cracker in the RSA a couple of years ago, where obviously the real whacker chinned, just held on to Jerry Calam. He looked like he was gonna hack up himself, and I backed him at like silly price on the exchange, but obviously to no avail. Yeah, just a bit trappy for me. I'll probably just, as I say, sit and watch. I think if you had to force me into a bet, I'd chuck a couple of pennies on Bron at massive prices, but on figures, he's got a load to make up, to be fair.
God, he's going to kill me now because I really, really fancy Fildor to win this race.
He's forgotten though, isn't he? He is a forgotten horse, isn't he?
What I'm clinging on to Joe that he was really very good against El Fabiola first time out last year in the two-way, and I think this is the time to catch him. Fakir Tudery looks like he ran in the he did run in the Kerry National, but 3 miles on his bag. But we forget he's only a 9-year-old, been around. But I think I agree with all. I think he's over the hill now. We could absolutely come out and romp home tomorrow, and that's the type of horse he is. Saint Sam, give him £5 to the field, and if he's taken on, he'll sulk. You need to take him on. If you don't take him on, you're in trouble. Especially in a small field. Solness shouldn't be 154, by the way. There is Banger Doyle, obviously Frank de Formula handicap in Cork last day, but a couple of horses fell in that race at the stall when it won a 2 mile one handicap chase around the stall, and then all of a sudden we brought up to 154. That horse now loved the ground, but it's not a 154 horse. No, not a whole. So that means for the process of elimination, first time out, Fildor 5-1. I think I couldn't put now. I'm not going to go mad, but I'm definitely going to back Fildor at 5-1 for me. Yeah, definitely.
You may have swayed me there a little bit then, Jamie, because it's possible as well that they sent him chasing too early last year.
Yeah, he's
like,
got the years experience, so
yeah,
exactly
yeah.
we're on the same line. That and in fairness, he wasn't that bad in the Ryanair. I thought he was way too far back. Um, yeah, he might be a horse this year, and he's only what, 6 now, is
I
it?
was going to
6
say,
or
isn't he? Yeah,
7?
he's
So yeah,
6, isn't he? So he's still a babby, like coming
maybe.
stronger now. So yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree.
We move on to Friday. Again, Mr. Rotherham will have the floor in the Holding Gold Cup. The favourite here, obviously, is 9-4. 9-4, what a price for the top weight. It's JPR1 for Colin Tizard, Joe Tizard, and the whole lot. Ethelon is 11-4. The JLo is 130. San Brui is 11-2. Scarface 11-1. And Helteman is 14-1. Scotty, you've been harping on about this horse since the 1,000 Guineas there on a Sunday in May. JPR1 for the Hall Gold Cup. Is he the one or is he not?
Yeah, you nailed it. I said straight after last season, after the Arkle, I said just bookmark JPR1 for the Haldon Gold Cup in Exeter in November. Absolutely made for this race. Don't care about the weight. He's got to give £2 to Jello, but I'm gutted because I had two naps pre-Christmas and they're both in this race. And the first one was obviously JPR1 for this race, and the second one was Jello for the Paddy Power Gold Cup. But yeah, I think that JPR1 just takes all the beating. There's a lot of deadwood in the race. Helton, Scarface, Etalon. I don't think they're anywhere near as good as Jello and JPR1. I think JPR1 over this trip is going to be slightly more effective as well. I think Jello's better over 2.5, staying on third in the Turners at the festival just gone behind Grey Dawning and Ginny's Destiny. I think 9-4 is an absolutely brilliant price, and I think he's going to take the world of beating.
I agree with you, Scotty. I have no interest in the race, but I think he'll win at 9-4. Liam.
Well, if it's any consolation, Scott, Jello basically meets every single trend for the Paddy Power Gold Cup.
Yeah,
The only thing he was
He
missing
knows. He knows
no,
that was his
was,
other nut.
was no prep run. So now he's getting it. He's a certainty.
He's
not a
been big.
week.
You've been big on him though, haven't you, Scotty? To be fair, Jello for the Paddy Power. You've been saying for months as well. Like this is the other.
Yeah, but they were my two naps before Christmas with JPR1 and
He's
Jello.
entered the Paddy Power, yeah?
Yeah,
Pardon?
but seven
Oh,
of
so
the
it's only prep, so it's a prep run, so Friday.
yeah, well, I think 7 of the last 8 winners have had a prep run, and there's only about 2 in the field currently at entry stage.
Oh, they're really.
Yeah, so that makes 3, and yeah, so absolute certainty.
Wow.
JPR1. Oh, I was livid last year when he didn't even fall, did he? He just unseated Brendan Powell on board when he jumped the last at Cheltenham. When he was going to absolutely hack up. This race, for me, I wouldn't really recommend a bet, but I do think that JPR1 will probably win it. I think he's better than most of these. And, of course, Jello's just coming here to tick the extra boxes for the trend so that he can go and hack up for Scott 10 days later.
Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same as you lads, but first thing to mention is every time I see the Holden Gold Cup, it does just remind me of Best Mate. This is unfortunately the race where we lost Best Mate all those years ago. He fell and had to be put down.
And he calls someone Bossman the Grim Rainer, and he's gone on about
Oh,
best
I'm
mate.
sorry. I'm sorry.
So, cheers.
But if we get
For
to,
lightening the mood, you're very kind.
if we get a chance to mention one of the best ever staying chasers, I mean, you've got to like. I remember I stayed off school for this and everything. My like with my mum and stuff. It was, and then I was heartbroken when it all happened. Anyway, but this shouldn't really be a grade 2, and even if it is, you're getting 60 grand to the winner here this for this race, and we've got 6 runners. It's a joke, to be honest. I'd actually say it's more borderline a disgrace that we haven't had more runners turn up, even from smaller yards. There's plenty of prize money to be picked up here. I was very, really disappointed in that indeed. What's ironic about JPR1 there, Liam saying obviously he made that massive blunder. This is a seriously slick jumper of a fence. He's very, very good, very quick over them as well. And I'd be in the same opinion as you guys. I think this is an absolute shoe-in. If we can get 9-4 nearer the time, I'll have a decent bet on JPR1 for sure. I think he's one of the best bets of the long weekend, if you like.
Perfect. We'll move on to Saturday. Wincanton, we have 3 races to cover. First is the Rising Stars novice chase. I have a very big fancy in this, but I'll go last. The favourite at 5-2 is Handstands. Resplendent Grey or something. 11-4. Peaky Boy 11-4. Soul Icon 9-2. Insurrection 5-1. Boom Bawn 5-1. And 11-1 Bar. Joe, you're nodding at me. You can go first. Who do
Yeah,
you think wins Rising Star?
you're saying you've got a strong bet in this race, Jamie. You can't even say the winner's name properly, Resplendent Grey. I mean,
No.
he's a lovely horse. He really is. He's by walk in the park, but he's not your typical walk in the park. He's a big brute of a sort of chaser. He's actually quite a slim sort, but I like the fact that he's already had a run this year. He was one of my horses to follow from last season, and he did everything right on his debut as well this year. I like the fact that he's got that experience because I think Handstands and Peaky Boy, I think they're going to be two very, very good horses. But I'm just concerned that they actually might need the run at this point in time as well. Resplendent Grey won quite comfortably last time out. He's always been dubbed as a horse that's going to be quite sweet as well. He's not flashy. No issues with his jumping. I think you're obviously going to disagree with me here by what you said, but for me, he's a really good bet in this race against two horses that may just come on for the run a little bit for this one.
Liam?
I didn't mind the fact that Insurrection was coming in here after finishing second, and obviously all of Nichols weren't firing at Chepstow. So he's one of the very few when he went, what was it, 0 for 14 runners over the course of the opening meeting there. It was only really him and Liari that actually gave any sort of decent running. So I think that I'd definitely give him a chance in here. Given the current prices, if he does turn up, I think he'll be an awful lot shorter than fives if that's the best price that he can get according to the Racing Post site. So I would be siding with him and hoping that he does turn up here, which I'm sure is the aim.
Go on, Scotty. I'll hold fire.
No, I think it's a very open race. It's hard to kind of get a handle on some of the horses still. I think the Springwell Bay form will prove to be all right in the long run from earlier in the season, but I'm interested just to see how Handstands get on. I think he's the one that I'm looking forward to seeing the most. He's by Getaway, and traditionally he produces good staying chasers, the likes of Talker's Cheap, Classic Getaway. Sporting John was a good novice staying hurdler. Won a race over fences. I'm just in, and for Onley, I think he side as well, who won a Grade One chase as a novice a couple of seasons ago. He's just one that I'd be keen to have a look at, and I think he could go well. But it's very hard to predict, and I probably wouldn't have a bet. He'd just be one I'd be keeping an eye on.
I'm 100% here with Liam. I think this is an absolute good 5 to 1. I agree. Liam won't be 5 to 1 on the day. I'm very impressed, especially with the way they were running at Chepstow, the Nichols horses. I thought he was the best actually the whole weekend at the Chepstow. Springwell Bay is a good horse. I think it's like Springwell Bay and Insurrection. Whatever they did over hers was a bonus. They're a stamp of chasers. And because exactly like you're kind of going with Resplendent Grey, so it's had to run, had to jump in. Handstands and Peaky Boy are definitely horses for the future, there's no doubt about that. But because he's run behind Springwell Bay, I think Insurrection is 5 to 1. He won't be 5 to 1 on tap, and I think you should back it now. Right, we move on to another one of Scotty's favorite horses in the elite hurdle, is it? In Rubo, who is 10 to 11. Second favorite is Nami Line, the 3 to 1. 3 to 1 Brentford Hope. And the rest, forget about it. But we've Ep.4 here at 7 to 1 for the Irish. And a bit of lump sum as well at 5 to 1 for the Welsh champion hurdle. So, Scotty, belt us away. On good ground is Rubo, right-handed, unbeatable over 2 miles.
Depends who he races against, obviously, but I think this is his cup final. I think he's everyone knows he's my favourite horse in training. He's very likable, wears his heart on his sleeve, makes the running. He's got no quirks really. He's a very slick jumper. This is his level, like I said, but you're gonna be shocked. I'm taking him on, and I think there's a horse in there who's got a lot of back class and won last time out, and he's 6 to 1, and I think he will run, and that's Aspire Tower. I think going back to his form from a couple of seasons ago as a novice juvenile hurdler, I think 6 to 1's too good to ignore, and I'm going to be backing him. I think he's way better than the likes of Brentford Hope. Nemean Lion's a decent horse. Lump Sum's obviously got a chance at 4 to 1. I think his form's pretty solid. We know who it all ties in with. Um, but yeah, I think Rubo at 4 to 6 is very opposable. And I'll just say a quick good luck to our friend Mr. Paul Beck Spectre. Forever Williams got an entry. Whether he's going to run or not, I don't know. But we'll wish Paul all the best. But I'll definitely be on our Spire Tower. 6 to 1's too big to pass. I think if he runs, the doubt is if he does run. But if he runs at 6 to 1, you have to back it.
Joe?
I can't believe Rubo's being deserted here amongst all of the poor runnings of the Nichols runners. Rubo was superb when he won last time out for me. Lump sum's not going, by the way. Ground's too hard. I've been told already. He's going to go straight to the Greatwood instead. I just don't see how Rubo gets beat here. He's going to come on plenty for that last run. I think he'll be ridden quite prominently. I think he's a good thing. But again, you're getting even money about taking that sort of chance. So, but Rubo takes this for me.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll be wary of Nemean Lion. Obviously, Kerry Lee sent him up to Foss start of last year, didn't she, for the Welsh Champion Hurdle. I think he's got half a chance, but Scott's already alluded to it. I am a very small shareholder in Forever Williams, so I think he pisses up by about 25 lengths. Uh, um, so no, I hope he runs a good race, obviously. But for me, we've got to be careful. I hope Paul doesn't watch this.
Yep. So Nemean Lion, that was Liam,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. For me, yeah, if that's so one, it would be Nemean Line. Yeah, yeah.
I'm with you here, Joe. I think Rubo will just hack up the ground in his favour, and I think he'll win start to finish. No one will catch him. Good luck. The 330 is the Badger Beer handicap chase. I have absolutely no selection here. I've actually spent an hour looking at this race and I couldn't find one. I never backed the winner, so don't take no notice of me with this. Even if I give you the winner, they probably fought at the last of them. The favourite here is Bufasa at 4-1. The Changing Man is 9-2. Lord Accord is 9-2. Copperhead 7-1. Blackjack Magic is 8. Remastered 10. Baddesley, Lord Baddesley at that 10-1. Forward Plan 12-1 and 12-1 Bar the rest. Any fancies in here, Liam? We're putting you on the spot in a handicap chair.
Yes, I think I'd do. A couple of horses just to mention. Remastered. I was all over him a couple of years ago when he was travelling really well in the Coral Gold Cup.
Oh, and he fell.
Yeah, he came down at the second last, or the last potentially. But yeah, he was travelling all over him. But it was really good to see him get his head in front the other day. It was really game and yeah, battled on well. I couldn't have him in here, but there's a couple that do interest me, and I'm potentially will just play the pair, both kind of win only selections. One's a changing man, so I think it was actually his chase debut last year at Exeter, I think it was. Grey Dawning was in the field as well as Stay Away Faye. Stay Away Faye just stayed on to beat the pair of them, but he finished in front of Grey Dawning and travelled really well that day. Then on his next couple of starts, again, travelled really well into races, but just sometimes his jumping let him down, or he made a really particularly bad jump that just kind of knocked him out of the race. But I do think off a mark of 130 in here, he's actually really well handicapped. So he'd be one on my radar. And the other one would be Autonomous Cloud. I know that Fergal O'Brien was really keen on this lad for some sort of stay in chase. Last season, he mentioned the Welsh National, obviously turned up there, just didn't really perform to the levels that they hoped. He's then had a couple of outings. Well, one outing was entered up previously at Worcester, was then pulled, but then ran in a hurdle race. And I think that's just very eye opener. So I think at 25s, he's a decent bet. If you just wanted one selection, I'd play him each way. He definitely will stay. He'll enjoy the ground conditions. And I think he's probably a little bit overpriced.
Lovely name. 25-1 Autonomous Cloud. There you go. Scotty.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think it's a very difficult race to solve. I did actually fancy Autonomous Cloud. Liam said it just there. I think he had a good each way chance in the race. Liam probably covered most of the points I was going to make there, but the only one that I was interested in was Risking the Ground. He's 14-1 for the Skeltons, and I backed him at Cheltenham in October when he was third to Lizenmelt Lad, I think is how you say, and we've all been caught with second in the race. He ran a very good race, and he just he made a couple of mistakes, and he was a bit short of room on the home straight. And I thought he was interesting, and I thought he would have a good each way chance. So I'll probably just do an each way kind of each way on the two Autonomous Cloud and Risking the Ground. But it's not a race I've got a good record in. But all I'll say is if Copperhead wins this, I'll probably just turn the TV off for the rest of the day. I backed that horse 100 times. He's won his last three, so it wouldn't surprise me if he went and hacked up. And Yeah, I think it's between the three of them, and I think the Changing Man is a horse a lot of people touted for the Ultima last year. I wouldn't be surprised to see him campaigned at the Ultima this year, the Changing Man for the Tizzards. I think 4-1. I'm looking at here is way short for the race, but yeah, just a couple of small each ways for me.
Joe.
Yeah, no bet in this race, but it's interesting. Obviously, Scotty mentions about Copperhead. With me being a ginger, he's a horse that I've followed for a very long time, like and we did a Discord day out last year at Ascot, and we all had a good go simply because I was there, all copper top over here, and he ran a terrible race, but he's gone on and won a couple of really nice races since then. I am sort of interested in the Changing Man. I know Joe Tizzard thinks a lot of him. I think he finished seventh or eighth in the Ballymore as well the previous year, so he's got some ability, and he will pop up at some point, but. I haven't got a selection as such. I'm just waffling for no reason.
Right. So the next one on Saturday is the 240 from entry is the Boy Sports Grand Sefton over the Grand National Fences. And your favorite here is Arizona Cardinal at 13-2. Percussion is 7-1. 8 Eldorado Allen. 8 Late Night Pass. 8-1 Without Peter. Sure Touch. Rare Bamboo. King Turgeon is 9-1. 12-1 Harper's Brook in El Delto. The Huey is 12-1. And the rest whoever's there for the rest. So, Liam, we're going to put you on the spot again with handicap. Who would you fancy here if you have any fancy in the Sefton?
No, is a short answer.
Very tough.
Frero Bamboo is one that jumps out. November, I think there's some sort of ridiculous stat. If you backed Phoenicia's horses at level stakes for I can't remember, X amount of time, you'd be up just in the month of November. Sorry. So if you just back them level stakes in the month of November for the last 5 years, then you'd be in profit. That's how much obviously her horses comes to the fore in this month. That is not a reason to obviously bet Ferreira in this. But no, so this is a puzzle that I haven't even really had a chance to have a look at properly. So no.
Got it.
Yeah, it's up there with the Beecher and all those races. It's a lottery for me. I think it's just throw the darts at the board wherever they land, kind of thing. Very hard to maintain a handle on the form. I think form goes out the window to a certain extent over these fences. But all I will say is in the Topham last year at Aintree, I tipped up Arizona Cardinal at 100-1 and didn't back him. And obviously he won. So I'll be kind of keeping an eye and see how he does. But I'm just not going to waste time. I haven't got a selection. I won't be touching the race.
Joe.
Yeah, I quite like one here. I quite like Gaborio for Greenland Guerrero. Of course, I did a stable tour with him not too long ago, and this was actually going to be the target for him. Now, he is actually a hunter chaser, so these sort of races aren't necessarily something he's used to. But if you go through the field, I think there's quite a lot of horses that are going to come on for the run. I think he'll be ready to go first time out. And when he ran in the Fox Hunters as well at Aintree back in April, he was traveling like a beauty until a couple of fences out when he hit the deck, and he was actually going to be there finishing really close to it's on the line. So you can almost use that as a little bit of a form line. He's 16-1 here, plenty of places available. The fact he's going to be ready over a lot of the horses in front of him in the market, I think he'd be a pretty decent each way punt here actually, at around 16-1. So Gaborio for Greenland Guerrero.
There's actually two I like in here, especially with the run and the way he won. But he's coming back in trip. He won over 3 miles too with Chepstow for David Pike and King Turgeon. What's attracted me is the 10 stone mark, but why is he coming back in trip? Why didn't they just keep him for a beacher? That's the other thing, but I wouldn't put anyone off. And the other one is obviously Late Night Pass, but I think this is a little prep run for the beacher chase. I would be really keen on this horse. Ran well in the Grand National. Obviously coming from hunter chases into handicaps and cross countries and all that. Thought it run really well. It's a horse to have a look at. Might not win the weekend, but if it runs well in Sefton, I'd be all over for Beecher Chase Late Night Pass. So that's my opinion. So we'll move on to Sunday with just two races quickly before we move on to the Ante Post. 215 is Sandown. I said kind of Sandown because it's the novice limited handicap chase. I suppose the two here that are very interested in, and they're both chopped up with Nico Weinberg on. And it's Iberico Lord and Jericho de Rapine. We have Peaky Boy entered here. Hellvine, who won the novice handicap chase, Hurdle final at Sandown there last year, in Kansas to Burley. we'll forget about the race, staying away, whoever runs. Who will be a better chaser in the long run? Joe, who is a massive fan. Will Iberico Lord or Jericho the Rep be a better chaser down the line?
Do you know what I
And
love?
they both Arkle material.
Do you know what? As you know, I love Jericho de Repene. I was at the Gala morning with him, so I just fell in love with him. But what I will say about Jericho, right, is he looks to me like a horse that is 10% short on speed, 10% short on a good jumping ability. I just feel like I think he's got all of the traits, but he's a whisker short of the quality that he's going to need to be to actually win himself an Arkle effectively. So then you look at Iberico Lord, of course, he won the Great Wood, a really good start. He's almost got proven ability already. So I actually think Iberico Lord will turn into be the better of the two, but I would love it to be Jericho, if that makes any sense, you know. But if you're just talking what you can see and what we've seen so far, I just think Jericho may just fall under the bar of a top grade one horse. So I don't actually think either are going to be good enough to win an Arkle. It's interesting that Nicky said that he thinks Jericho would do better for a trip as well. So for a horse that was touted as a pure 2 miler, perhaps he sees the same. He's just 10% short in traveling speed, turn of foot. Maybe he's just not quite up to the class, but I love this horse and I'd like him to do much better. Can't see either really contending in an Arkle, but I wouldn't be surprised if Iberico Lord did. So it's a bit of a funny one for me at the moment.
Scotty?
Yeah, I just think Jericho de Repene is rubbish.
Oh,
I'm sorry. Flinter Sacra, all those type of horses in the past, jet powered, stick him up there, give him the badge, and do what you want with him. But he's not winning anything. Iberico Lord's a good horse. Again, I think he's going to be a grade 3, grade 2 kind of horse. I don't think he's going to be an Arkle contender. He could potentially be one that could go in the 2.5 at the festival in the novices handicap. But I know Jamie likes a horse in that for the same connections. So, yeah, I think Iberico will run on Sunday. No, I don't think Jericho will run. I think they'll wait till the Arkle trial in the November meeting at Cheltenham in a couple of weeks. I think that's where you may see him. I want Jericho de Repene to do well, but I just don't think he's a class horse. So yeah, I think Iberico Lord will be the best of them. And I think if he turns up here on Sunday, he's going to be the one to beat. But yeah, like I said, I think Jericho may turn up at Cheltenham for the 2 mile novice chase on the Sunday. I think it's the Sunday or the Saturday. They moved it 4-2 now.
Leah?
I think Scotty kind of alluded to it there. Sometimes there's just a massive bias towards particular owners, colours, and whatever else, and then the hype that goes with it. Jericho, I'm not sure if any of Henderson's runners will turn up here. Ground, I'm not sure if he'll fancy running any of them, to be perfectly honest, if that is the going. Who will be the best? I do think Jericho Drepane will be. I think it's very hard to analyse some of his runners, especially those that were kind of unexposed that we didn't see the best from in the spring last year, given obviously all the issues that they had in that yard. Lucia was the only horse that ran anything of note at the Cheltenham Festival, of course. Most of the horses were obviously pulled. I do think there's a lot of improvement to come from him. Whether it's just, I don't know, just kind of appeasing the owners or what, I don't know. But Nicky comes out and speaks really well of this horse as if the thing's a weapon. So I do think that there's a lot more to come from him. But kind of like Joe suggested, just kind of not quite top quality. Maybe John Bond 2.0. But yeah, I think he'll be the best of all of them at this stage. Though I couldn't punt on anything this, even if it was priced up.
Can I just jump in? One thing I will say is I watched Nicky Henderson stable tour the other night, the racing TV one for an hour, and he was so negative on the fact that there's not many beginners chases in the UK
oh,
for horses. And we alluded to the point that there was a two-runner race at Uttoxeter the other day, which was, I thought, a nice little two-runner race with two lovely horses. I think if you're looking at those kind of opportunities, the likes of Jericho, the Repene, Berico Lord, okay, Jamie was saying the ground, or Ginger saying the ground is probably not quite right for Henderson's horses yet. I don't think there's any excuses. I just think he's got a crop of horses this year that are not going to be any good. And I think he's looking for excuses. That's just the impression I get with him this year.
There's just no excuse not to run them though, because I feel like they're so scared of getting them beat on their first starts. I think it's a load of rubbish. You've just got to get them out there. And even if they get beat, that experience will do them fine. It's not like at this level you're going to find novices that are broken by getting beaten in a beginner's chase, a novice's chase, whatever you want. I think it's terrible. I've had a look through the calendar. There's plenty of beginners chases, plenty of novice chases. It's a joke if you ask me. It really is. And this is the problem why we're getting such small fields. Again, you go back to even looking like at the Holden Gold Cup. Why haven't we got more horses running in that race? We had tons declared. You've got 17 as a max field in there. There's loads that just aren't turning up. It is worrying. It's a big worry for me that you've got to be running your horses. I know good ground is a concern to some trainers. Look, these are built to race. I don't buy it at all. Nonsense.
I
I
think all
think.
of this is that, sorry, Scott. Go on.
Sorry, Liam. I was going to say, I think the point you made there is quite interesting. I think a lot of trainers, you see bread and butter trainers who necessarily don't have the crop of horses to compete at Grade 1 level, Fergal O'Brien, Donald McCain, they pick and choose and make their living in the smaller kind of races pre-Christmas, kind of rack up the prize money. And I think that's what a lot of trainers are doing. We've got like John Joe who trains JPR1. They know that they're not going to be competitive in champion chases. They're trying to target the smaller races which have decent prize money, the likes of the Haldon Gold Cup, which is 60 grand to the winner. Whereas the likes of Hendo, the likes of Paul Nichols, I know Nichols has got a lot of chasers who are competitive in handicaps, but I think they obviously have the bigger meetings in mind after Christmas, and I think that's kind of the bias tilt towards it. I think it's quite an obvious thing, really. I think that's what they do. Um, but going back to Donald McCain, I mean, he tends not to come down south with horses very often anymore. That's probably why Brian Hughes was champion jockey like he was, just racking up winners in the likes of Newcastle, Ayr, those kind of races. That's just my view on it. That's just the way I look at it. But
I think that's it. I think almost every trainer's got their own kind of modus operandi kind of thing. And what Nicky's actually saying when you read between the lines is there's no easy prize money novice chases where there's no competition in them, which is that's essentially what
Yeah.
he's saying. They kind of yeah.
So it's a worry. It's a worry when he's the best trainer in England and he's worried about running his horses against second-rate trainers and second-rate horses, if you like. It's a bit. It's a shambles, to be honest. It's an absolute shambles.
Is it 4 runs you have to have now to be in a handicap at Cheltenham for chases? I think, isn't it, Chad?
Yeah.
or
I think that's the kind of way. Like, how can you see Nicky Henderson getting 4 runs into both of them before a Grand Annual? Because to be honest with you, they're a pair of Grand Annual horses. But anyway, moving on to more Grand Annual horses. In Naas on Sunday for the return of Mr. Joe. I'd love to sleep next to in his box. Marine Nationale's favorite son here in Ginger Joe. He is running at the 235 in the Barberstown Castle Grade 3 Chase. We've no prices yet, obviously. He's up against Quixilios, Hercule, Desoi, and a triple Sanya here. Joe, the floor is yours. He has his grounds, no excuses. He's had about 40 win operations. Will he win?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is look again, bias all aside. This is crunch time for him now. He's got a decent little field here. Hercule de Soy, Zana here, and Calixios. If they all turn up, I hope they do. This will be a really good marker of what he's capable of. But again, I've seen him a few times now in the recent weeks. He's fit, he's well, he's had no issues. His schooling's been good, his prep's been good, he's moving well. There are quite literally no issues for him at home. He's been very straightforward. It's all systems go to get the job done this weekend. Now, if he isn't able to get it done this weekend, then I will finally start questioning some of the things that others have been doing so. But I feel he is well worth forgiving for the 1 run, based on the fact that not only did he come out with a fracture, but he came out obviously with a back issue as well. And people have obviously questioned his breathing from the Irish Arkle when we were at the DRF. But this is the time now he has to perform. There is a chance that he's going to be a little bit keen on his first start after a little while. He was in his beginner's chase, but it was no issue for him because the engine that I believe he has is far superior to what we have in this field here. And he should take a lot of stopping here. There's no excuses, no excuses for him to get beat. I can't wait to go there on Sunday and see how he gets on. I'm excited. I'm nervous. Anyone would think I own this horse. I don't. I'm just a super fan, borderline obsessed. But I still don't buy the fact that a lot of people are just it does frustrate me when I put a post out and people just say, "Oh, well, he can't breathe." I know it's all sometimes banter, but if people think that Barry would run his horse with such an issue without it being clear, it's absolute nonsense. It's actually quite a discredit to his handler as well. And people go, "Well, he's got a real high head carriage." He's had this from day one. And also, I noticed that the same people that are crabbing Marine Nationale are the same people that are all stuck in on 6-4 for Constitution Hill, and he's had multiple wind ups. He's got colic, which people don't really understand the seriousness of. So there's a lot of hypocritical comments going out there. But again, it's all fine. People are fully entitled to their opinion. But look, as far as this weekend goes, everything has gone so smoothly, almost too good at home, which almost puts a bit of worry into you in that sort of sense. But if he isn't winning this, then we've got issues. But for now, he takes all the beating this weekend. And he's getting weight from Hercule de Soy and Calixios as well. No excuses. It's time for the boy to shine.
Liam.
He can't breathe, and the best bet of 2025 is Constitution.
Be nice, Leo. Be nice.
No, sorry, I am only winding you up. I latched onto him very late when he won in the Supreme, and he properly brushed Facile Vega aside. I was really impressed with his beginner's chase at Christmas at Leopardstown, obviously last year. He was clearly disappointed at DRF. I hope he's back to his best. You would have concerns. I wouldn't be backing him for anything in future, but it'd be great. He'd add so much to whether it's the Arkle Champion Chase division, whether it's the whether it's the 2 mile division, whether you think he can step up in trip and go 2.5. I'm not sure he's as ground dependent as people suggested. It was a bog that day at Leopardstown when he absolutely hacked round there and bolted up. Obviously, the fielding behind wasn't fantastic, but I don't think he needs good ground as much as people think. It's just a shame we haven't seen him more, to be honest. Obviously, he was put away very early in his novice hurdle season, and then just unfortunately last year with his issues. I hope he's back to his best. I hope that there isn't a breathing issue or whatever the issue was, it's been sorted and solved. So yeah, it's just a watch for me, and hopefully that he is back to the horse that everyone thought that he could be. Yeah, Quilixios will be his biggest danger in this.
Just a quick point on the ground. And he's by French Navy. He is all speed Marine Nationale. And I know again this isn't even a biased comment. As far as sprint speed goes, there is not a faster jumps horse out there than Marine Nationale, but it is getting into that home turn in line with the likes of Gaelic Warrior, who has no issue getting around courses and clearly likes Cheltenham and things as well. But the problem is with the soft ground, because people say, well, he's won on heavy ground over hurdles. Yes, he has, but you can get away with it much easier over hurdles than what you can. It's much more difficult to jump a fence in soft, heavy ground than what it is to jump hurdles. So his class, for me, has gotten through a lot of those races. And then when he got to the Supreme, we saw what he was made of when the ground was good to soft, ideal conditions. So that's for me where the ground issue is. But he is definitely a better horse on faster ground, which might be an issue come March. We don't know. We haven't had a good to soft, good ground Cheltenham Festival for many years now. Times have changed. So he is going to need a lot of luck if things like that going his way. But the ground issue is the fact that he finds it much harder to jump a fence on sticky, deep ground than what he does over hurdles. Look at the Royal Bond. Look at the way he moved. His class got him through that race and his turn of foot. You wouldn't have wanted to put any fences in his way that day, that's for sure. But anyway, that's my piece on it. Let's hope he gets the job done and gets around in one piece. First of all, he comes out in one piece. That's always the main thing.
Got it.
Yeah, just going to echo what obviously Ginge and Liam have said. Nothing would make me more happy to see him come back and be at his best and put in a good performance. I think anyone that's a true racing fan wants to see the best horses come back to their best and put in the best shows. And it would make it a nice kind of thing for the rest of the season. Looking forward to the Champion Chase to have a real contender to take on the likes of Gaelic Warrior, potentially Al Fabiolo. I just do have concerns. I know Ginge mentioned the ground being heavy that he's won, but he's never won on heavy over hurdles. He's never won over heavy in his life. He won on soft ground in the Royal Bond, but the soft ground that day at Fairyhouse wasn't soft ground. The inside of the track there was more good to soft. I mean, that's what I've been told. And a lot of interviews after that race, the Ashrow Diamond connections, they all said the same. Irish Points connection said the same. Gordon Elliott came out and said that the ground wasn't soft in description. Marine Nationale, I think, will struggle on heavy ground. Um, in his favour on Sunday, I think the ground at the moment at the track is good. So getting £9 from Hercule de Soy, I think it's an absolute gift. If he comes to 90% back to his best, he wins this race, in my opinion. But I I do like Quilixios for the race itself. From his back form last year, I was all over him for the Arkle, and he disappointed, and then he was really blown away at Aintree. I don't think Quilixios is a world beater. I actually do quite fancy Hercule de Soy in the race. I know, like I said, he's giving £9 to Marine Nationale. He was only beaten 3.5 lengths in the Grade 1 at Punchestown behind Gaelic Warrior and Elite Thompson, who won the race. He's got a real good record. First time out, has a good string of ones to his name early part of the season. I actually think Hercule de Soy is the one to beat in the race, personally. And that's very kind of a bold statement. No Marines in there, but he's got the best form over fences, arguably Hercule de Soy. Zana here is an interesting one. I think 2 miles is probably a bit on the sharp side for him nowadays. I'd like to see him over 2.5, 3 miles. But yeah, my heart says I'd love to see Marine National come out and put in a big performance, but I am worried. I'm not going to lie, but I really do want him to come out and win well.
There is a case where me and Jamie have spoken about this a lot. And again, obviously, I'm his biggest fan, but there is a case that he'd be better over hurdles with all of this speed we've discussed. He'd be a great addition to a champion hurdle. So there is a lot more risks with fences. And like I said, he's got the allowance here as well. He's got to be winning this if he's as good as
If
I
the
think.
Marine Nationale from a year and a half, 2 years ago when he won the Supreme, that kind of performance he put in. I know Facel Vega wasn't exactly blowing away the world with his form after that race, but I think if Marine Nationale was going into, say, this season in that kind of form, he won the Supreme in on good ground, I think he'd be like a 5-2 poke to beat State Man in the Morgiana. I think this could be the last roll of the dice, even over fences for him, Ginger, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think it's crunch time. There's no way he's going to enter the county because he's such a fragile horse that he's never going to get 4 runs in for a county. So forget about that anyway. Because I'd love to see him in a county, buried in a big field on good ground, because I think he'd win. But if he doesn't win on Sunday, he's definitely going back hurdling. There's no doubt about that. No matter what Barry says, and he says this to you, Joe, and that to you, this is just my opinion. I'm Barry Connell. I've seen him around for a long, long time. He's definitely going back over hurdles if he doesn't win on Sunday. So, and there's no more excuse now. He's got his ground. Personally, myself in the race, I think Quixilios is for me in this race. Hercule de Soy, I can't see giving £5 to Quixilios and £9 to Marine Nationale. But he's a front runner. He might get a soft lead. The ground is in his favour as well. But like Quixilios' most impressive performance last year was at the track and on good ground. So I would be small bit with Quixilios at the moment. My heart says Marine Nationale. My head says Quixilios is for me in this. But I really hope he wins and it adds spice to it. But if he doesn't win, I suppose the way I look at it, if he's close up and he doesn't win, he's getting into the echelons of you're going into the soft ground winter now, and there'll be no more excuse. Like he's not going to
Yeah,
be the Gaelic Warrior in soft ground. Do you know what I mean? Like that's what I'm trying to say, Chuck. So for me, he needs to win on Sunday, sorry. But if he doesn't win, put him back hurling, and he'd be a great addition to the champion. I will agree with that.
yeah.
Definitely. I
Don't
think he's a
disagree.
good. I still think he's just a better hurdler from the naked eye, and I still 90% eye stats and trends 5%, and the other one is form 5%. I'm still 80% in my eye, 90% in my eye.
Yeah,
I think
agreed.
he's a
Agreed.
better hurdler, and that's just me. So the final part of the show before we move on is we're going to get maybe Liam's best anti-post, a new anti-post selection from him. We got anti-post selection from Joe, good or bad, indifferent, and me and Scotty's head to head. So Liam, as your Mr. Anti-Post Angle, can you give us your best bet so far for Cheltenham? One you think about striking, and one you had from left field. Like let's put it that way. Tim.
What about a lay as well? Give us a lay as well,
Oh
Liam.
yeah, we'd have a lay as well.
Let's have a lay.
We're killing you. 4 things, Liam. We need them.
Give us your lot, Liam. Give us the lot.
Okay, I'll give you the Super Hinds as well if you want it. Best bet at this moment in time, I definitely would have said that it would have been Corbett's Cross. I think it's available around about 20s, 25s for the Ryanair. Um, However, I wasn't particularly impressed the fact that he was chucked out very early in the season and thrown out the back of the telly for and drifted to about 11-1 with 3 runner
Yeah.
field. That wasn't overly impressive. Um, Best bet Ante Post would be. So I'm going to go Regent Stroll. I'm hoping that they're going to go down the same route. So a British horse, which you're pissing against the wind straight away, I would have thought. But for the Albert Bartlett, I think he's still available around about 25s. But I hope that they campaign him as aggressively as they did Stay Away Faye, obviously when he won the Albert Bartlett 2 seasons ago. You watch his bumper races back and he's doing all his best work at the finish, runs really powerfully through the line. And when he's asked for an effort by Cobden, he really starts to kind of lengthen his stride, and I think he'll stay all day. The only thing is, it's whether Nichols sends him there. But at this moment in time, off the top of my head, 25-1, that would probably be my best Ante-Post punt. My lay
I assume that's Regent Stroll, by the way, you're on about, yeah?
is, yes, sorry, yeah, Regent Stroll. Yeah. So yeah, Regent Stroll for the Albert Bartlett. The lay would definitely be Constitution Hill. I'd lay that all day. Yeah, ridiculously short given the fact of all the issues that he had last season. The kind of wild card that I'd give is Liari, and not for Cheltenham. It's Liari for the Greatwood Hurdle. So later this month, he's available around about 20s, 25s. He was obviously had a race where, again, as I said earlier, all of Nichols weren't running particularly well. He hacked up on his first 3 runs last season. Tom Malone, who purchased the horse, could not say enough good words about him. And given how all of Nichols' runners ran at Chepstow, he was one that actually ran quite credibly. He finished 3rd. And I think turning up here, not having to give weight away, Nichols has won it twice with a 4-year-old previously. I think that he's a bit overpriced and he's worth a bet for the Greatwood.
Lovely, thank you, Liam. Joe?
Yeah, mine's going to be one that I have given to my group. I put up Fast or Slow here last time out. I still think he's a good bet. There's been a bit of King George saga, if you like, but I think he'll end up turning up in the John Durkin now against Fact to File and Gallop in the Champ perhaps and go from there. But for this episode, it's going to be Imperi Pass for the Arkle. You can still get a double figure price about him. It's going to be his target, so that's obviously one box tick straight away. And I alluded to earlier that I just like horses that drop back in trip for the Arkle as well. I just think it bodes well for them. And the fact that Imperi Pass is going to be a year older than the majority of these and had a lot of graded form already in the book with much better horses, I think it's going to take a really good horse to beat him in the Arkle. I know you're really sweet on Ballyburn there, Jamie. I got a sneaky feeling he's going to go up in trip, and I know I'm in the minority of people that think that. But even with Ballyburn in there, I think Imperi Pass is his main danger, and at 10-1, he's a pretty good bet for me.
So the final part of the show is our head-to-head of me and Mr. Scotty Bad Boy Rotherham. Scotty, I'm going to let you go first. Who will be your second selection for the Ante Post series? Or do you have a selection? You don't have to this week.
I'm tempted to put 2 up, but I'm going to save one. I'm going to go in the Mare's Chase.
I'm tempted to put 2 up as well, but I'm going to save one as well.
I'm going to save one. I'm going to go in the Mare's Chase. 14-1, I think, at the moment on Betfair Geese. I know they're still up and down about splitting her and Jade for the Mare's Chase.
You kind of skipped to say the name again.
Sorry, Car Geese for the Mare's Chase.
Oh,
yeah.
14-1 at the moment. I think they're still kind of like undecided about Jade DeGrugy and her where they're going to go. But I think Jade DeGrugy is going to stay over hurdles, and they're going to send Car Geese chasing. Her form is very good. It's in the book, obviously second to Madgebury in the Triumph Hurdle. Ran another cracker at Aintree and won at the Punchestown Festival. I know Bottler's Secret was second to her, I think just beating over a length in that race. Bottler's Secret didn't really frank the form in the Matterson's Holding hurdle at the October meeting at Cheltenham, but Cargeese is a very keen goer. I think the fences could be the making of her, and again, it's all based on what's around there in the anti-post market. Dino Blue doesn't stay 2.5 miles. She's the anti-post favourite. Limerick Lace is 4-1. She's obviously going to be there and thereabouts. Impervious is coming back from an injury. I never backed horses that have had an injury and come back the next season.
I'm just going to go nice and simple. My second selection is in the Ryanair Chase. I've been harping on about this horse for a while. I'm just going to put him in the book. I can get rid of him if I have to. But 20 to 1 long press. I've told you in previous episodes what I think about this horse. Ran the Gold Cup obviously last year. Charlie Deutsch got off, said the horse has a bit of speed. That screams to me like a protectorate coming from a Gold Cup, finishing third, fourth, back to Ryanair. He's umpteens amounts of experience compared to like a pound of 50. And all that. I like experienced chasers in Ryanair. He's rated 167, same as Protectorate. They're the best two horses in the race for me. So I'm going against Protectorate. I'm going on the same lines of how I picked Protectorate last year. Benicia Williams hopefully will wake up like Glenn Skelton did and send him to the Ryanair. He's a course and distance winner as a novice, won a Browns. To me, over 2.5 miles, I don't think the ground makes a difference to him. Obviously, he's better on softer ground, and you're not going to get fast ground in Cheltenham anymore. So for me, 20 to 1 top price, non press will be my second selection for Cheltenham.
That'd be hell of a
So
back-to-back.
glad. You're so glad because last year you went for the last pick. You went for the Browns, and so did I. I was going to pick the Ryanair as well. That would have been freaky.
Before we do go, Jane,
Yeah.
let's just have a little bit of a plug for Liam. Tell us where everyone can find you and things like that, Liam, and what you're all about.
Yeah, so it's Ante Post Angle on Twitter. To make life more confusing, it's actually at Ante Post Value. So yeah, I've got a Telegram group in my bio where I try and put up selections each day. Doing all right for the year in terms of P&L and stuff, but yeah, if anybody wants to go and follow, then head over to Twitter and you can find me there.
We'll put all the links below as well for you, Liam, as well. So anyone that wants to go check him out, highly recommend it. Actually, Liam is doing things like watch-alongs. That was great fun for the Breeders' Cup. Thousands of viewers, definitely worth tuning into. He kept me company on a long drive home, and then I jumped on. It was great fun, great fun. So definitely worth checking out Liam's column.
Cheers, Joe. Appreciate it.
No worries.
Lovely. So that's it for episode 4 of the Ginger Joe Racing Show, proudly sponsored by betting.co.uk. And we got to thank you, very big thank you to Liam. Thanks, Liam, for coming on.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
I'll talk to you later, boss. And to Scott, good luck.
Bye.
Thank you, and we'll see you again.
Cheers, lads.